Hey, welcome back to Yogi's Garage. I'm Yogi. Today's video is going to be about restoring a power steering pump in a 1995 Mercedes-Benz E320 Wagon. This particular pump is unique because it is a tandem pump, meaning that it's self-leveling system on the back of the wagons. So this pump is unique in that sense. I think everything on the wagon is leaking, but this particular unit was leaking the most out of all of them. So I'm gonna take this pump apart and I'm gonna restore it with brand new O-rings, a brand new filter, and keep my fingers crossed that this resolves the issue. So here we go. There are 4 bolts holding the 2 pieces of the pump together. Once you separate that, you'll be confronted with this hourglass O-ring. That hourglass chunk of aluminum is held on there by 2 dowel pins. Be careful when taking that off. You'll see in a second. We're at a point where I need to stop the time lapse and kind of go over a few things. This here is the impeller blade here. And you can see how the blades move and retract and extend based on where it lands, and with a little bit of help of gravity and centrifugal force gets that off. All right, so this has got to come off. I got to take the shaft off here. There's a almost like a crank seal style seal that I need to get off. This could turn into a nightmare here. If I pull this off and those blades come off, I've got a problem. But I still got to get this clip off. So I'm going to get that off first, and then I'll figure out a way of keeping all that together. Oh, what fun. This is, I had to customize my clip pliers for that. I had to take a little bit off the edges. They were a little too chubby and they wouldn't fit between the clip. But now I think I've got it. Dang, it's still tough.
Okay. Part of me is like, does it help to go slower or faster? Let me push that off somehow. Guess it's got to go more.
I mean, we could try to stick a little screwdriver in there. Try it again, and I can try to get my little screwdriver in there. Just like you. You don't have to get here. Ooh. One at it. That it. Right. Do it. You know, this gives some shade. Got it. Okay, let go. Oh, I got it. You got it. We got it. Yogi Mama said off camera, sometimes you need 4 hands to get it done, and she's right. I think I've devised a way of protecting the little blades in here from falling apart, I think. Okay, so now here we go. We're just gonna separate the impeller. Gonna keep it all together, and then this comes off. Okay. Oh, I did it. Damn it. Stay. It's a magnet. That's the problem. Okay. Not too bad. Not too bad. Whew, could have been way worse. Some of the blades came out. I think I can understand how they go back in. Okay, not a complete disaster, but I got it going, so yay me. Completely wrap this so that it won't fall apart. And this impeller blade does not need to be ultrasonic cleaned, so I'm just gonna set it right there for now. Here is the ultrasonic cleaner doing its job, and just the solution that I'm using, which is super clean, it did a great job on just taking off the buildup here on the aluminum. And yeah, so I'm gonna let it run for about 15 minutes. I've got a temperature about 120 degrees to get to loosen the grease up and the power steering fluid or whatever else is in there. We need to rebuild this power steering pump before I put it back into my wagon that I'm trying to repair. So I initially tried to do it with a kit that I picked up off of, and this is no fault of theirs, but Rock Auto. This kit was not the right one. I ended up getting the correct one, and you can tell by this particular hourglass looking gasket or O-ring. It came with that as well as multiple additional O-rings, so I'm thinking I don't know. But anyway, and a small and a large crank seal, and this particular one needs the large crank seal, so that's good. The other kit that I got had this, which happens to be a small crank seal, so not useful here whatsoever, and I don't see a crank seal anywhere else on this kit, so I don't know. This kit goes to a couple of them. If you guys know what's going on with this thing, and if I'm missing something, let me know, but I'm just going to go off of what I know currently. It looks like this particular brown firm or rigid O-ring sits into, there's basically a lip right there. I don't know if that's going to come out on the camera, but that is a lip that this thing will sit on. And then you insert the whole thing, I'm thinking, into this thing, whatever it is. I mean, that's a perfect fit right there. All right, disregard. I was right. I mean, I was wrong. I can't believe it, but I was. Yeah, it goes upside down. So the lip faces up, because this is the only way it really fits. And it fits perfectly in there, to where you don't have to do any type of, bending or flexing it. It just pops right in. So I'm going to take my lint-free paper towel here and just get on in there. I want to clean this up. Right? I don't want any debris preventing this power steering pump from going back together. Let's find another O-ring that goes in here. That looks good. And here's a large one. That's what she said. For the pump, this pump has a magnet. I almost lost all the pieces to it. Now I'm gonna have to go back and look at review the video footage to figure out how everything goes back together. And these are the tools that you're gonna need. Phillips head screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, couple of different types of mechanics picks to help get you scratch at some things, maybe get some dirt out of the way. A 13 mil socket here on my 1/4-inch swivel, my little clip tool, my little snap ring, T40, T30, 10 mil, and a couple of torque wrenches. And of course, my motivator, my dead blow hammer. All right, so that's what you're gonna need, I think, to put this together. Oh, and one last thing. You're gonna need one of those. And that is for hammering in the crank seal into position. This crank seal looks really good, but say it with me, folks. While I'm in here, might as well replace it. You don't ever know, really, until you take it off, whether or not it's any good. Almost got it. It's got a bend. There's a metal inside of there, so you got to hammer it out, or hammer it in, whatever. All right. And there we go. Just had to hammer it from the back with a flathead screwdriver. Took it right out. And taking my lint-free towel, paper towel here, to clean this out. All right, let's put it back together. This socket, by the way, is a 24 millimeter. I'm just I'm gonna give it a couple of love taps. You want the lower lip here to be flush with this flange. You don't want to go too far. There you go. That's good. Nice. All right, that's done. All right, the next step, now that I have the crank seal in, is to reinsert this shaft. You just want to make sure that you don't overlap on the crank seal. Everything looks good there. And just get it right where it needs to be, like so. All right. So the next step is to get the copper collar back into here, like that. All right. And then insert there, like that. All right, so the next step is to reinstall the propeller or the impeller blades. And if you remember when I took this thing apart, there are little individual vanes that love to come apart. So we got to be careful here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it open. Because flipping and trying to get the paper towel off is probably a bad idea. Okay, there. So as you can see, there's two pins that kind of hold this thing in place and that needed to be popped out for this to actually work. But you can see the sprocket gear right there. That's where it's got to line up on these teeth. Okay, so before we get started on putting this thing back together, some things that you need to identify in here are that there are two sides to this impeller. I'm going to call it impeller. I don't know what else you want to call it. But basically, there's a beveled edge on the inside of this sprocket, and then on the other side, it's a flat edge. The beveled edge faces inwards towards the pump itself. So keep that in mind. Now, I think I've come up with a way that will help me get this back in there, hopefully without making a mess of these little fans. I'm going to do it upside down and try to line it up that way. And once I get it in there, like that, then I can stick my hand. I'm going to slide this all the way to the edge, and I'm going to have to reinstall that O-ring, but no big deal. Just get my hand and then flip it over. I'm sure there was a way easier method of doing that, but there, I did it. I think it worked fine. So now I just got to get this thing into the dowels there and then push it in like that. All right. And as you saw in the video earlier, getting this little snap ring clip, I'm hoping it's a lot easier to do than it is to take off, because it was not fun. All right, let's give it a go. It's such a strong piece of metal. There's literally minimal flexibility. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out the best angle. There it goes. All right. Yeah. Force. Brute force is what did it. And then I want to make sure that the vanes are working. Huh?
There you go. Perfect.
Oh. Okay. There, how's that? Better? Yeah. All right. Okay. Yay, it's all back together. Not really, but I'm getting close. And this piece goes right here and lines up with the dowels as well. Oh, well, if I put the dowels in the right place. There. All right. Okay, now that I've got these pieces back together and it's all reconnected and the seals and the O-rings are in, it is time to reconnect these together. I should just go like that. Pretty straightforward. 4 bolts. All right, so before you put these bolts in, You need to make sure that all of the holes on the pump itself, not the housing, but the pump spindle itself, are lined up. And I think what we should do is go ahead and run them in. You should be able to spin the pump freely. If you can't, then things are jammed up in there and don't go any further. A couple of them in. Check fitment. Check the pump again. Looks good. These bolts here are 24 Newton meters. Okay. And if you look at the orientation here, you'll see that this is the front. This is obviously where the pulley goes, and this is where it attaches to the accessory bracket, and then here is where the reservoir will sit once it's all back together. So we're doing it right. All right, now the top of the pump has bolts that are in a strange pattern here, right? You got a couple that are really close together and a couple that are not. And you just got to line them up to the ones on the inside here, and it basically is doing that so that the output goes to the rear. So we'll do it that way, and I got to put the O-ring back on. Want to make sure it's nice and clean, no tears. Drop it right in there. Now another Yogi's tech tip is, if you notice, the bolt's got to go down. So if you try to get a bolt in there and line it up, you can see it's going to keep falling off. These are not magnetic. So here's a little Yogi's tech tip here, is take a piece of tissue or rag or a towel of some type and put it between the tool and the bolt. It'll hold it long enough for you to get it threaded in there, and just do that for all four. Okay, now you want to get the filter in there. It should just go right down to the bottom. Not sure why I have a 12-inch extension on this thing, but whatever. Let's try that again. Like that. Now there's no torque on this needed, but if you want to do some torquing, go for it. There. That should do it right there. I just threaded it all the way down to the bottom. I'm not sure if that's right or wrong, but that's what I did. Okay, we've got one other piece that goes in right here. And this is a compression fit, so there are no O-rings or anything on these, so you just gotta get it in there and hope it doesn't leak. Slight correction, this thing goes up on the top on the reservoir. I knew that, I don't know why I was trying to do that. Okay, so that completes the rebuild of a 1995 Mercedes-Benz E320 power steering pump with tandem feature.